Let's begin by adopting our meditation posture, taking 3 deep breaths and relaxing completely with each out breath. Release any tension in the body. Allow it to settle in a posture of relaxation, stillness, and vigilance. Check that your head is in balance and is not tilted backwards, forward, or to the sides, as this generates discursivity or laxity. Let your mind release all hopes and fears and rest in the present moment. Let your breath be natural, without controlling it or modifying it. Let's set our motivation for the practice to cultivate greater balance, well-being, qualities for a loving heart, in order to be of benefit to other sentient beings, to the world, and to live more meaningful lives. Then just rest. With the sensations of the breath throughout your body. Now let's reflect briefly on the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards liberation. We first reflect on the precious human life, how difficult it is to obtain it, how easy it is to lose it, and the great opportunity we have. We reflect on impermanence. Everything is changing. We reflect on causes and conditions, how our present is the result of our past, and our future will be the result of our present. And we reflect on the unsatisfactory conditions of conditioned existence, cyclic existence. How we suffer and want to be free. How others suffer and we would like to do something to help them be free. Now, with this in mind, let's practice loving kindness meditation. Let's begin by wishing ourselves happiness. Generate this aspiration in your heart and mind. May I find true, genuine happiness. And may I cultivate the causes of happiness. And with each in-breath, visualize rays of light coming to you from all directions of the universe, converging in the center of your body, at your heart chakra, and filling your body with light. Imagine every ray of light bringing you something you need to cover your material needs, your spiritual needs, to help you on your path, to help you flourish as a human being, to assist you in your projects. To help you live a meaningful life. Visualize these things, everything you want to ask for. With each in-breath, imagine this light coming from the universe to meet you and meet your needs. If you need medicine, visualize it. If you need a job, a partner, if you want to develop some skills, ask for both temporary and lasting happiness. Generate this thought. May I receive both temporary and lasting happiness. Feel that you deserve it. Now visualize yourself receiving all those things and transforming your life into something meaningful. Generate the aspiration to cultivate generosity, patience, compassion, concentration, wisdom. Visualize all conditions for your practice manifesting. Visualize yourself developing these qualities, these virtues. Visualize your body filled with light. And see yourself transformed into that person you want to be. That person you already are, below the layers of mental afflictions. Visualize that light coming out from your heart, feeling your body coming out of each pore of your body, now made of light. And see yourself coming into the world and having meaningful actions, helping others, using your material, your mental and spiritual abilities and possessions to be of service in the world, to bring something meaningful to the world, to humanity. Imagine yourself living with great equanimity, without attachment, without anger, with a loving, compassionate heart. Now think of all the people in this room. Generate the aspiration. May they find happiness too. And may they cultivate the causes for happiness. And imagine sending them this light of loving kindness with this wish. Now imagine this light coming out of this room and touching every being around us. The people in the institute, people in the village. And extending out to all beings that are in Dharamsala, feeling the whole country of India, touching each and every sentient being in this country, bringing them whatever they need to be happy. and extending this light out into all the world, all the countries, each and every sentient being in the planet. Bringing medicine, clothing, food, resources to all those places where they need it, with the wish, may you too find happiness. With each out breath, continue sending this light of loving kindness. Now imagine this light filling every tree, every river, every mountain, every place of the planet, healing it, regenerating its forests, cleaning the rivers. Now keep expanding this light in all directions out of this planet, infinitely to the whole universe. Let your body dissolve into this light. Every being, every planet. And just rest in that light. Let's finish dedicating the merit of this practice so that we can continue cultivating and developing loving kindness, that we can transform our lives to a lives of service, of benefiting others, and cultivate the causes for enlightenment, for liberation, for genuine happiness. And start moving a little bit and stretching, coming back. So I'm gonna give you this chart. You wanna help me? You give one to each one. So this is a chart of the four immeasurables, so that you can have a clearer picture of all of them. These are also called the four Brahmaviharas, the divine abodes. They're also called the four divine emotions, the four sublime attitudes, or the four divine dwellings. And these are loving kindness, the meditation we just did, which is also called metta in Pali and maitri in Sanskrit. I say these words because you might find them in books, or some people use them in exchange of the English word, so that you know when you hear them what they're referring to. Then we have compassion, which both in Pali and Sanskrit is called karuna. We have sympathetic joy or empathetic joy. It is called mudita. And we have equanimity, which is called upeksha or upeka in Pali. So these four immeasurable attitudes or thoughts or aspirations, they help us cultivate that good heart. We are already love and compassion and wisdom, but we don't know. We're covered by mental afflictions. Our minds are obscured. So it's not always present. We do experience this from time to time, but not all the time continuously. And we want not to only experience them continuously, but to expand them infinitely, right? And if you see here, today we did loving kindness, mainly focus on ourselves. We did a bit longer in the part of loving kindness for ourselves, but at the end we expanded towards others. And then there's ways in which you dedicate a whole meditation session on loving kindness, dedicated to your loved ones or to strangers or even your enemies or people that are hostile or you don't like or they don't like you, right? In this way, always including all beings. So if you see, this loving kindness is not an emotion, although it catalyzes an emotion, right? But it's an aspiration. May you be happy. May I be happy. And when you wish loving kindness to others, you're not expecting something in return. You're just genuinely wishing them that they can be happy. And wishing that to yourself too. So here are some definitions to make this clear, because these four are like our four bodyguards. They balance each other, they help each other. And if we just cultivate one of them and forget about the others, we start going kind of in the wrong direction. So that's why we need to practice all of this. The first one is loving kindness, and is defined as a heartfelt yearning and vision for oneself and others to experience happiness and the causes of happiness. The proximate cause is seeing the lovable qualities of another person or of oneself. And here is because if you recognize that someone has lovable qualities, or you find them in yourself, then it's easier to think, may you find happiness. For example, if you see a baby is very lovable, and it makes us want to take care of them, and we just smile and feel happy when we are around a baby. Not everybody, there's people that don't like babies, but most of us, we find them lovable. So it's very easy to wish for them to find happiness. Well, if you see someone that is very grumpy or aggressive, it's more difficult to find those lovable qualities and then wishing them well. But we want to be able to wish this aspiration to all beings, right? And find those lovable qualities everywhere. So when we are faced with a person that is very difficult, we can think that their mother must perceive them as lovable, and their pet, and their children. And so in that way, we help our minds connect with those lovable qualities and see them in others, right? The false facsimile or near enemy of loving kindness is self-centered attachment. So our love is usually mixed with that attachment, right? So when we say to someone, I love you, it's usually coming from attachment. And attachment is always self-centered, because it's, I love you because you can give me something, because you bring some benefit to my life. Like, if you're not going to bring anything to my life, why would I love you? I don't care about you, right? We usually function in that way. And even relationships are very pure, like that of a parent with a child. There is true love there. There is this wish that the children find happiness and the true cause of happiness, and it's very genuine aspiration and love, but there is attachment too, right? And there is all this controlling, manipulating, like, why are you going to abandon me if I've given you everything? Like, we continuously do this as children with our parents, parents with children, spouses, partners, friends. We continuously expect that if we love someone, they love us in return, or they are grateful, or they do something to deserve our love. So it's mixed with attachment. And so the idea here is to not confuse them and to start separating them and cultivating that loving kindness. It doesn't matter if you abandon me or you don't love me back. I still wish you to find happiness and liberation, and that you cultivate the true causes of happiness. So that's true love, right? And not expecting something in return. That which is diametrically opposed, or the distant enemy of loving kindness, is ill will, and is the intention to harm others or ourselves, and taking joy in another's misfortune. So of course, if we're experiencing ill will, we are not experiencing loving kindness, because we're wishing them to suffer, to be harmed. We get happy if they have obstacles or problems. So this is a mental affliction, and is a cause for our own suffering. So loving kindness, by cultivating it, is an antidote to dissolve this ill will. So the sign of success is having less ill will or malice, as well as an increase in friendliness and warm-heartedness. So when we experience loving kindness, we don't have enemies. We love all beings. And when we go into the world, nobody's a stranger. Everybody are our friends, our families, our siblings, our parents. We experience this love for all. Right? So we want to cultivate it in our meditation. Maybe at the beginning it feels a bit fake or artificial or constrained, but as we practice, The idea is to start opening our hearts. So meditations are there as methods to help us. This meditation, we used visualization. It's not necessary to use visualization or generate the thoughts, but it helps us. Otherwise, we just think, oh yeah, I'm going to cultivate loving kindness for all, and then just start distracted about something else. So it's good to do a little bit of shamatha practice, focus your mind first, and then using the visualization and those steps help us connect with the experience of loving kindness. Once you generate it, you rest there in that experience, to make it a habit, to become used to it, so that it comes spontaneously. When you see a sentient being, you want to help, you care, you are wishing each and every sentient being you encounter in your life, you're wishing them that they find happiness. And then the remedy or the bodyguard or guardian of loving kindness is equanimity. Because if we just practice only loving kindness and we don't practice the other four immeasurables, we can start feeling a lot of attachment. Yeah, I love everybody and I love you, and I become very absorbent or possessive or needy. So that self-centered attachment can start arising, this near enemy or false facsimile. So equanimity, if we practice equanimity, it will balance it. Because equanimity is resting in a state where you don't have attachment, you don't have aversion. So, yeah, you love your children, but they decided to leave. That's okay, you let them go because it's time. They want to leave, you're not going to stop loving them. So you practice equanimity. Or your partner decided to leave you. You don't have a choice. So if you practice equanimity, that helps you balance and still feel that loving kindness for them, but not the attachment, not the grasping. Equanimity helps us when we receive praise and we start feeling, I love myself so much, or people love me, and then again it starts getting distorted, that loving kindness. Then equanimity is remembering that everything is impermanent, that everything will pass. Good experience, bad experience, everything will pass. So it balances. The next one is compassion, and we did it a few days ago. We did the practice of compassion for ourselves. We will do compassion for others too. And it's the heartfelt yearning that all beings be free of suffering and its causes. It's very important to say ourselves and others. We don't forget that we are a sentient being too, and that we need to experience this compassion and loving kindness for ourselves too. Otherwise, how can we experience it for others, right? So, in this compassion, we ask, what can I do for you? What can I do for others? And not from a sense of superiority, from a sense of really caring. The proximate cause is recognizing that others wish to be free from suffering. The helplessness of their suffering, and you're poised to do something, or knowing that something can be done. So, if you don't practice compassion, maybe you don't even notice that others are suffering. Maybe you go into the bus and you're sitting there and an old lady comes, she can barely walk and she's hanging in the bus and you don't offer your seat. Maybe not because you're a bad person, it's because you're not aware that they need something, or you could help alleviate some of their problems, right? But if you're always attentive and you're always meditating and practicing compassion, then it's going to come spontaneously. You're going to stand up and say, please, sit, how can I help you? Right? And this is important to cultivate it towards all sentient beings. Recognize our suffering, recognize the suffering, and keep doing this aspiration. May you and I, may we be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So it's kind of the other side of the coin of loving kindness, right? And the false facsimile or near enemy of compassion is grief, sorrow, and depression. So if you start sinking, feeling so much grief, so depressed because you're only watching all the terrible news and feeling, practicing this compassion, but then focusing too much on the suffering, that your mind gets a little bit clouded and you start feeling so heavy, like there's so much suffering in the world, I can't alleviate it, I can't do anything. What can I do? And so you feel despair. So that's not compassion. You're going to another extreme, right? Because compassion has this energy of action. Okay, I might not be able to alleviate all the suffering in the world, but I can contribute. I can do something. And by doing that, maybe I will motivate others, and they will motivate others, and we can all work together to alleviate the sufferings in the world, right? And then what is diametrically opposed, or the distant enemy of compassion, is contempt and cruelty. Is taking pleasure in someone else's suffering. So, of course, someone that is torturing or harming someone else is not experiencing compassion, because they're inflicting suffering, right? There's a nice story of, as you know, many Tibetan people were in concentration camps in Tibet when the Chinese invasion, and some of them, like Garchen Rinpoche and other great lamas, great teachers, were captured, and they were in these concentration camps. And so they were tortured, they were starved, they suffered terrible things. Yet when they came out, they didn't have post-traumatic stress disorder, and they were not full of resentment, because they were practicing compassion there. And when the Dalai Lama asked one of these lamas, how do you feel about your experience? Did you experience fear? And he said, the fear I experienced was for moments. I feared losing my compassion towards my torturers. But if you see, all of them, they express with love towards the Chinese people. So it's an amazing lesson, because no matter in which condition we are, we can still practice compassion and loving kindness and keep practicing, right? So, of course, the torturers that were inflicting cruelty and harming, they are creating the causes of their own suffering. And so we can feel compassion towards them. Not justify their behavior, but we can still wish that they didn't cultivate those causes and that they were free from their mental afflictions, right? And the sign of success of compassion, when we're practicing it correctly, is that our capacity for cruelty and delight in other people's misfortunes subsides. So, the more we meditate on compassion, the less we rejoice of others' suffering, obviously. And the remedy or bodyguard, or the one that balances compassion, is empathetic joy. Because as we said, the near enemy is grief or sorrow or depression. So if you're just focused too much in suffering and just perceiving the suffering in everyone and everything and your own suffering, you're just thinking about your own suffering and the suffering of others, and you start sinking and feeling that helplessness and depression, then if you start meditating on empathetic joy, that will uplift you and feel that there is hope. So with empathetic joy, we're focusing on the virtues, on the good things that are already happening in the world, and that many people are doing good things, so we can rejoice and feel happy about it. So that's the next one, which is empathetic joy or sympathetic joy, and is taking delight in other people's virtues, successes, and joys. So this is the easiest to practice, yet we forget to do it. But we don't even need to sit in meditation to practice it. Every time we hear in the news that something good happens, although in the news we don't hear it so frequently because it's not a selling news, but every time we see someone having an act of kindness, if we rejoice, if we just say, I feel happy that they did that, you're creating good karma and good merit. Lama Zopa says that. It's like you just get happy for the other, and you receive. It's like you receive a lot of positive merit or karma. So it's the easiest way to accumulate merit and virtue, right? Because you don't have even to do the action, just by feeling happy. But what do we do normally? Like somebody has an act of kindness, and we start thinking, they must be doing this because they want something and because they want praise. Like we start criticizing, we start judging them. We don't feel happy that they're doing that positive action. So the more we can practice this empathic joy and connect with those organizations that are doing really meaningful things. Yes, there are some NGOs and organizations that they probably take the donations and don't use them. But there are many that they do use the donations and help others. So we rejoice, we contribute if we can, and we feel happy. And then if we see a person smiling, just that, feeling that empathic joy, like, I'm so glad that person is smiling. There's so much suffering in the world, and this person is smiling, is feeling happy. I feel happy for them, right? So, again, with children, it's very easy to practice empathetic joy because we don't feel competitive towards children. We don't feel aversion or rejection. So if we see children playing, it's very easy to give rise to this empathetic joy and feel glad just to see them enjoying a moment. So that's the kind of attitude we want to develop towards everyone. And the proximate cause is attending to the virtues, successes, and joys of others and oneself. It's important to also rejoice of our good actions. We think sometimes that is negative, that if you have an act of kindness or generosity, you shouldn't feel good about it. No, it's okay to say, I'm glad that today I did some positive actions. Of course, we don't want to be telling everybody, I'm so compassionate, I did this donation, I did this thing, I'm so good, because then it's pride, right? But it's good to rejoice about your own positive virtue, and it's like reinvesting your positive karma. Is Like you do a positive action and then you rejoice that you did it and you gain more positive karma. Yes?
And directly to this, it's also, it's also motivating other people to do something. Because if you're doing something, you're also a kind of role model to others that they do something, because they start to think, what could I do?
Mm-hmm.
So that therefore it is also good to talk about it if you're doing something.
Yeah, just with wisdom.
Yeah.
And then the false facsimile or near enemy of empathetic joy is frivolous joy. So that's when we go to an extreme that it starts becoming fake, right? Like, I'm so happy that you are happy. Like, you look so good, you look wonderful. But then it's kind of exaggerated and it doesn't feel like coming from a balanced place, right? So we're going to that frivolous joy where we are laughing and pretending that life is perfect and everybody is wonderful, but kind of just suppressing, not wanting to see that there is suffering, that we suffer, and just putting a facade. Yeah.
What is the meaning of this word?
Frivolous joy.
What is the meaning of this?
Of frivolous joy?
Frivolous.
Frivolous. It comes from frivolity, like
silly. Yeah, not serious.
Silly. Not serious, cynical, like fake, like not
frivolous actually means silly.
Insincere. Yeah.
You can't let the joy touch your heart. You actually just.
Excuse me?
You can't let the joy touch your heart.
You don't
because
let.
there's sadness inside, so.
Yeah, it's kind of superficial. Yeah. So we can confuse these two, right? The empathetic joy and the frivolous joy. And then the opposed or the distant enemy is envy and cynicism. So when someone has a better job or a better partner, because we perceive it, it's not that it's better, but we perceive it as they having something nice that we crave or we want or we are attached to, we start experiencing envy. And we start thinking, they don't deserve that. So that envy is the opposite of rejoicing and feeling happy that they had that job, that partner, that lifestyle, anything. They found some alleviation to their suffering. Yeah, we know it's temporary, so feel happy for them, right? And then the sign of success is the reduction of envy and cynicism. And the remedy is loving kindness. So if you are feeling this frivolous joy, to balance it, you start practicing loving kindness and really wishing others to find that happiness, that well-being, but not only the temporary happiness. You wish them that they find genuine happiness, that they're free from suffering. And then we have the last one, which is equanimity. And equanimity is an even-heartedness, even-mindedness, and impartiality. It's attending without attachment or aversion. So equanimity is cultivated by releasing our attachment and our aversion. It's also arising when you meditate in Shamatha practice. You're cultivating equanimity because you are releasing that attachment to sensory experiences. You're just sitting with your breath and you're at peace with it. So you're cultivating a sense of equanimity. And equanimity is kind of a support for all the others, a support for our practice, to know that in life there's ups and downs, but if you can cultivate that groundedness, that sense of acceptance, accepting impermanence, accepting reality as it is, then you will release the attachment and the grasping and find a happiness that is not that happiness where you just laugh like a maniac and feel so much joy, and then you feel the down of the depression and your ups and downs, but it's more a sense of well-being, a sense of stability, a sense of peace, right? And the proximate cause is taking responsibility for our own conduct and actions. So instead of blaming and demanding from others to make us happy, we realize that we create our reality and we can decide to cultivate the causes of suffering or the causes of happiness, right? It's in us. Then the false facsimile or near enemy is cold or aloof indifference. So sometimes we think, I just want to meditate, I don't want to interact with anybody, don't bother me. Like, I don't want to have any contact with anybody, I'm indifferent to the needs of others, I'm indifferent to the suffering, to the happiness, I'm indifferent to everything. Where I'm dwelling in equanimity. So sometimes we confuse indifference with equanimity. Now, equanimity has this readiness to act with compassion and with loving kindness, right? It cares about others, but not with grasping, not with attachment, not with rejection, not with that intensity. But we care about others. We're not indifferent. That which is diametrically opposed or distant enemy is craving or attachment to those who we like or like us, and aversion to those who are different or those who don't like us or we don't like, right? So when we feel strong attachment or strong anger or rejection, aversion, we are not experiencing equanimity. The sign of success is less craving, attachment, and hostility. And the remedy is compassion. So when we start feeling that indifference, that cold or aloof indifference, to balance it, we start focusing on the suffering of others and our own suffering, because that will help us connect again from the heart to others and care about them. Okay? So it's important to practice these four in the path of the Bodhisattva, because a Bodhisattva is a seeker for the truth. Bodhi means awaken or awakening, and Sattva is the one who seeks that awakening. Bodhisattva is a being that is on the path to becoming selfless, egoless, to release all that self-grasping, and wants to be of benefit, alleviate the suffering of others, wants to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of others. So in the path of the Bodhisattva, developing these are crucial, right? And we call them immeasurables because we can keep developing and developing them. There's no limit. So today we did loving kindness, and we will do the others, but start practicing all of them. You already saw how we did compassion. Equanimity we are already practicing because we are doing shamatha practice and we don't have a lot of stimuli here to detonate attachment and aversion, although we could just grasp to everything and start feeling attachment and aversion, but we can cultivate that equanimity when there's a noise or the food is not what we expected, right? Today there's no chocolate cake, so we feel angry. Like we could bring our attachment and our aversion to the retreat, right? But here we are to practice that equanimity and empathetic joy. Feel happy. You have here a lot of people practicing Dharma, dealing with their minds, doing something so meaningful. So every time you see one of the participants of the retreat, there's an opportunity to rejoice and to feel empathetic joy, and that's really wonderful. Okay? So do you have any questions? Yes?
This empathetic joy, after we leave, as in right now we can't do it because we don't have internet or whatever. There is a thing that you can do on YouTube which is called as random acts of kindness.
Random acts of kindness.
So people have put together videos and they've created like a digest of strangers doing nice things for others. Random acts of kindness. So just reminded me of that where you said that feeling joy for others' actions, getting inspired, wanting to do it, just feeling joy. That is one of the things that gives me a great joy once in a while when you feel down. Just go to YouTube, just type random acts of kindness. You will see lots of people around the world doing wonderful things for each other.
And that's a good example. For example, we might have some free time. It's funny how people say, I have time to kill. I have so much free time to do. I don't know what to do with it. But really, we don't have that much time. In the tradition, we say that we need to practice as if our hair is on fire because there's not enough time to perfect all these practices. But somehow we go into the internet and we're scrolling, and then let's say we go to YouTube and we say, I'm going to watch a video about the latest iPhone. And then you start craving it, just saying it, how beautiful, and they show you all these features and all the things you can do with it. And then maybe you didn't have that need or that desire, but now you generate, I need it. I definitely need this in my life to make it more meaningful, right? So what's happening there? You made a conscious action to watch the video, and you're generating attachment. But you could do that search, what is random acts of kindness, and then decide, I'm going to practice a little bit of empathetic joy. So you put the video and you're just rejoicing about all the good things these people are doing, and maybe you feel that motivation to go out and do something good for others, right? So you invested the same amount of time, but one you use it to create more causes of suffering, another to create causes of happiness. It's as easy as that. Every moment we are creating either the causes of suffering or the causes of happiness. Every time we're using our three doors, body, speech, and mind, one of these three, to interact with the world. So how do we want to interact? With loving kindness, with compassion, with empathetic joy, or with attachment, craving, ignorance, pride, jealousy, and all the mental afflictions, right? So these are the causes of suffering, these are the causes of happiness. How do you want to live? What do you want to cultivate? But we are so used to react without thinking, impulsively, that's why we meditate, to train ourselves so that it becomes like a second nature, like an impulse. Because if we don't meditate, if we don't train, then you come out of your house in the morning feeling so positive and feeling, today I'm going to be so loving, so compassionate, I'm not going to get angry. And 5 minutes later, somebody hits your car or crosses in front of you, and then you're in an attack of anger, fighting, and you didn't even had the time to reflect, is this a constructive action? Is it a destructive action? Should I react with anger? No, you're already caught up in an anger episode, right? But if you are training in meditation and cultivating and visualizing, next time I find someone in the street that is driving in this way, I'm not going to get angry, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to keep that equanimity, and you're meditating and visualizing it. The next time you have a better chance of not reacting impulsively. Of course, it's not easy. We're very, very habituated. So we need to forgive ourselves if we are not completely perfect, enlightened Buddhas when we come out of this retreat, right? It's practice. It's just practice, and we have whatever is left of our lives to keep practicing. Yes?
I have a question, and it connects more to the meditation in the morning.
Yes?
That I felt like while meditating and in this relaxed experience, trying to convince myself in those Dharma ideas, and that I already believe in, and you just feel very cognitive activity, and not touch deeper, doesn't touch deeper, and even it felt a little artificial, like I'm using the relaxed state to be convinced in something. And I wonder in general, is it, I thought that while meditating, sometimes these insights supposed to rise from within, not like something that I'm trying from outside to be convinced.
Yes. The idea is that they become more natural, more spontaneous, right? But by doing the meditation training and doing the analysis and just reflecting, okay, I have a precious human life, I don't feel it, I don't feel anything, or I don't connect with impermanence or any of these thoughts. It doesn't matter. You just do it and reflect on it to the best of your ability, however you can. And then by repetition, by doing this practice again and again and again, something starts changing. And suddenly you will have those moments of insight. Maybe not during the meditation, maybe you're outside walking, and suddenly you will have this insight into the impermanence of all phenomena, but it will be like a huge experience, because it will be like, I get it, Or maybe you will see a little insect suffering, and you will start crying of compassion because you've been reflecting on that thought of unsatisfactory conditions and how all beings are suffering and chasing happiness, but creating the causes of suffering. And then you will connect from the heart, But it's because you're doing this meditation again and again. So, by repetition, we're training our minds, and eventually that will connect with the heart and have a transformative effect. It's a method, it's a training. There might be other ways, right? But these methods are effective. They have been used for centuries. And if we find something that can help us meditate better on impermanence, do it. Do other meditations. This is a way of doing it in which is analytical, because we're also kind of reflecting on all the parts of this map of the path and understanding where everything fits. But there's a lot of ways to meditate, and not all have to be so conceptual or analytical, right? So the thing is to know that these are main points in which we need to meditate. And then connect in different ways. Maybe go walking and say impermanence, just the thought impermanence. You don't have to do anything else. You just observe everything around you. That's a meditation, because you're focusing on seeing impermanence directly through your experience, right? Or when you see someone suffering and you realize how fortunate you are. It's not to compare yourself, it's to have that emotion connected to recognizing that you have a precious human life and that we are wasting it because we don't know we have it. But once you know you have it, you want to use it in the best possible way. So all these thoughts will help. Even reciting liturgy. In some retreats, they are full of ritual and liturgy, and it can be strange for some people to come to a Tibetan puja or a retreat where you're chanting a lot of texts, and you're like, how is this going to have any effect on me, right? When I first went to Kopan Monastery, it was a 1-month course, but it was kind of in a more monastic environment, and you were doing all these chantings and repetitions, and we were repeating the Heart Sutra, one of the sutras of wisdom sutras, of the perfection of wisdom. And it's a teaching that the Buddha gave to his disciples in Rajgir, in Volturspeak, near Bodh Gaya. And so it's not long. And it had this teaching in the middle. We would repeat it every morning. We would recite it, just recite it. And I was thinking, why do we need to recite this so many times, right? And there was this phrase where the Buddha is telling his disciples, emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness, right? So, actually it starts, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And when I recited, it was like, okay, I don't feel anything, right? I don't experience anything. I don't even quite understand it. But as we repeat it every day, again and again and again and again, and because of the blessings of the Buddha and the whole tradition connected, then there were moments where I would say, I'm getting it. I think I'm getting it, what he meant. Or I would have an insight, right? A connection. And it's because that repetition is a meditation. So in the Tibetan tradition, there's a lot of repetition, but it has its purpose too. And I didn't get it until I experienced it. These 4 thoughts, with my teacher in Mexico, we would do them every day for years. Every meditation session, we did these 4 thoughts. And we memorize them because you're repeating them, right? But at some point, it's as if you make them yours, like it become part of your mind. You're aware of these things all the time because you're repeating them again and again and again and reflecting on them. So in one session you might think, yeah, the precious human life, impermanence, what am I going to eat later, what's going to be for dinner, right? So you're not really meditating on them, but because you're repeating and repeating, eventually, one of those times, you're going to have an insight. and it's going to be transformative. Okay? So that's why in the preliminaries, in the extraordinary preliminaries for Vajrayana, you repeat 100,000 times the same meditation, the same prayer, the same mantra. Because that process is purifying karmic seeds, is purifying mental oscurations, veils of confusion. So as you do this again and again and again, it's like peeling an onion. You're removing those layers of ignorance and oscuration, and your mind becomes a suitable vessel for the next practices to have an effect on you. So don't worry if it's not connecting from the heart. Just try to reflect and connect it to examples of your own life. Try to bring to mind those examples so that you can feel it. And once you feel it, then it will have that transformative effect. Okay? The same with loving kindness. Try to experience it. Try to bring to mind wherever is necessary. Yes?
Sorry. Are you done?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't interrupt.
No. It's okay.
No, I'm just saying sometimes it's just a matter of seeing this. Just 2 days back, I noticed there's a dead snake hanging in the tree outside the dining room.
A what?
A dead snake. We're all blind to it.
Dead snake.
And it's quite beautiful. It's dried out. It's just that we're so caught up in our own thoughts and it's right outside the dining room. And suddenly I saw it and I said, how did I miss it? How did I not see it all these days? Suddenly in one blind moment, it just appeared. So I was just kind of thinking about a repetition or just keeping at it, and suddenly one day you might see it. It's pretty interesting. Second thing I wanted to add was this thing about the YouTube videos. It's pretty interesting because what becomes popular is also driven by algorithms. They pick on what is driving engagement, what people are engaging with. So in a sense, it's also picking on what people are seeking or getting joy out of, you know. And I was kind of thinking that when you started with the thing about it is within us, all of us, but it's clouded by afflictions, right? Is that the word used? So it's pretty interesting that these things are within and we seek it as random entertainment, or you see it and then you get caught up with the other stuff, but it's a matter of revealing it or focusing on it or seeing it.
That's a good point. That's a good insight. There's so much going on that we are not aware of because we're distracted, because we're caught up in our own drama of our own problems and the things we don't have or the things we want to have, that we are missing what is happening in the present. And it's so important to practice mindfulness, to practice presence, concentration, and then these qualities of the heart, and be reflecting on the 3 marks of existence and the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. And if you start meditating on all of these things, they start all integrating to the point that you don't have to think about them anymore. They become part of your life. Right? And the decisions you make and the actions you do. Anything else before we go?
I'd just like to
Yes?
add something to what Venkat said. That YouTube algorithm thing, it's a mirror. It's a mirror of what we are seeking. Because if we seek it, YouTube throws it back at us. So if we go back to our YouTube login and we see 100 videos, and then we see what are they the content of. Is it something that we desire? Is it something which is empathetic joy? Is it something, so it's like a diagnostic tool that we can use to kind of evaluate ourselves, where we are on this journey, so to say.
That's an interesting point because each person is getting a different experience a different set of videos, right? That are stimulating either your attachment or your aversion or your loving kindness and empathetic joy. So it depends on where you're putting your attention. So there is this phrase that comes from William James, that it comes in the Attention Revolution, that says, whatever we attend to becomes reality. So reality is not already out there waiting for us to interact with it. We are creating reality, and each one of us is perceiving a different reality based on what we are putting there, how are we relating with the world. And we can experience samsara, or we can experience nirvana. We can experience this as a conditioned world full of suffering, or we can experience this as a Buddha realm, right? So in Vajrayana, there is this idea of pure perception, transforming, using the energy of attachment, the energy of desire, the energy of anger to do a transformation, an inner transformation, transforming yourself, transforming the environment and all your perceptions, purifying everything. So each one of us is deciding which reality we want to see. A reality where we are helping each other and we're trying to create benefit in the world, or a reality where everybody's fighting and craving and taking things from each other, right? So that's a good example. Okay, see you tomorrow.